The Old Guy Radio Players presents... It's the George and Pudgy Show. Starring Milt Stiltskin as George Coinbridge. Co-starring Bill Dookie as Pudgy Coinbridge. Also starring Schmitzy Puldunka as Maggie Coinbridge. And Margaret Meadow Muffin as Mildred Coinbridge. Along with Peter Peters as Felvin Snoots. Percy Tinkles as Edward K. Murrow. And the man of 101 voices, Fogg Marley. The World Tour, Episode 6. Is the Rock of Gibraltar natural? Or was that a gorilla?
This is the Gumchewy Radio Network. This episode of the George and Pudgy Show is brought to you by Samuel's Sewer Sucking Service. No one likes to talk about sewer problems, but even fewer people like to deal with a sewer backup. That's where Samuel's Sewer Sucking Service comes to the rescue. Our trained professional crew will show up on time, smartly dressed in suits and fully prepared to fix and clean your worst sewer problems. So remember, the next time you have a sewer problem, you can trust the man in the sewer sucker suit. That's Samuel's Sewer Sucking Service. And by the makers of Mrs. Marshall's Magnificent Wonderwear. It puts the wonder in your unders. It never tears, it self-cleans. Mrs. Marshall's Wonderwear. In our last episode, Mr. Morrow had just told the gang to give the best interview in the history of broadcasting. Did they? Let's tune in and find out.
I've hired a crew to go back to the Savoy Hotel to gather all the broadcasting equipment as well as all of our belongings. We're going to meet them back at the airport and set up to broadcast before we leave on our flight to Gibraltar. You folk are going to give me the best interview in the history of broadcasting. Do you understand me? When I make my broadcast back to the States, you folks had better be at the top of your game. No fighting or mumbling, no useless nonsense. Have I made myself crystal clear? Or do I need to make a note and pin it to your shirt?
Ladies and gentlemen, we're interrupting our normally scheduled program to bring you this special broadcast from Edward K. Morrow in London, England.
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen, and I say good evening for you folks back in New York City, where it's currently 9 p.m. It is only 2 a.m. here at Croydon Airport in London, and we have just spent the last 2 days enjoying the sights and savoring the food here in merry old England. We visited many historic places during our stay here, all of them holding their own story in time with our crew of world travelers, the Coinbridges. Pudgy Coinbridge just happens to be standing closest to me, so I'll start with him. Pudgy, we're live on the air broadcasting to millions of folks back home and around the world. What would you like to share about your experiences thus far?
Thank you for asking that very interesting question, Mr. Morrow. So far, my favorite experience was when we went to the Tower of London. I learned that it was built by one guy and his kid, and the acoustical properties of the spiral staircase is something only a true artist can appreciate.
Thank you for that insightful averment.
Whoa, if I did that, Mildred would have my hide. But you're welcome, I guess.
Moving on, George Coinbridge, what, heaven forbid, do you have to say about this trip to England?
Thank you, Mr. Morrow. You're the greatest. So far, I learned that some moron moved the Eiffel Tower to someplace in France. And no one at Stonehenge knows which one is the Rock of Gibraltar. But I have learned that a lot of places here are in the wrong spot. But at least now I know that I don't know enough.
George, it is brutally apparent that you indeed don't know enough. Now, here's Maggie Coinbridge. With millions of people eagerly listening, what do you have to add to this disarray?
Well, first of all, I want to thank you, Mr. Morrow, for the wonderful time we've had here in England. As far as my favorite thing is that we've done so far, I think it's when we went to see Piccadilly Circus. You know, that circus with the dancing bears. As it turns out, one of the poor bears attacked some dumb kid as they closed the circus. That and Bangers and Mash was pretty good.
Well, I asked for the best interview in history. This obviously isn't the best by a long shot, but it is tipping the scales for being the most bizarre. I'm almost afraid to ask Mildred Coinbridge, but at this point, I can't see this interview getting any worse, so why not run with it? Mildred, what would you like to say?
I really like the architecture of the lobby at the Ritz. It's really too bad that our moron tour guide almost killed us driving on the wrong side of the road, when he was the one driving down the wrong side of the road. You know what I mean? So that we had to stay at the Savoy, and the feel of being in that historic, century-old country courtroom where George and Pudgy had to appear before a judge after getting arrested. I really appreciate the craftsmanship of the woodwork and all the gilded trim, which was just beautiful. It was just like going to a movie, only George and Pudgy had to pay a fine instead of buying us movie tickets.
And that is just about what I expected. From here, our travels take us to Gibraltar. We'll be departing here in just 1 hour from now. Let me tell you, ladies and gentlemen, the experience of taking these two couples on a world tour is going to be the challenge of a lifetime, and we've only made the first stop in what looks to be a very, very long trip. We'll catch up with all of you out there in Radioland at our next stop, where we'll bring you another, unique interview. This is Edward K. Murrow, signing off. Well, I should have known. Every one of you managed to say almost word for word exactly what I didn't want you to say. At this rate, we will all be locked up or dead.
I sure am glad I don't have to give any interviews. No one here can come close to...
Shut your pie hole, snoots, or I might see how many people can fall out of the plane on our way to Gibraltar. There's no parachutes on this flight, so you'd better grow yourself a pair of wings fast. Okay, Coinbridges, when we get to Gibraltar, we'll be staying at the luxurious and historic Barbary Hotel and Restaurant. So I'm expecting you to be on your best behavior. That's not too much to ask, is it? Yes, of course it is.
Hey, Pudgy, do you think that judge we saw wears that wig at home?
It wouldn't surprise me, Georgie boy. I wonder if they make them from the hair of little old ladies or horses.
I wonder if they take him to a dry cleaner's.
They probably just toss them in the washing machine along with the rest of their laundry.
You might just be right.
That guy over there is holding a sign that says, Mr. Snoots Morrow, I'm very much here to drive you to the Barbary Hotel.
Aren't you the driver we had in England?
Yes, sir, Mr. Snoots, sir.
How did you get here before us and with the same limo?
I am telling you I drove here very much fast to be here for you now, sir.
There is no possible way you could have driven all the way from the Croydon Airport in London to the Gibraltar Airport. How can you possibly explain that?
It is very simple, sir. The hotel has not yet notified me to stop being your very much good driver.
I don't know. Something doesn't feel right about this.
Well, I think it's nice that the driver is considerate enough to get here in time to drive us to our hotel. And at least he knows how to drive.
You just keep rubbing it in, don't you?
Hey, Pudgy, how do you think that driver got here so quick?
I don't know, George, but it's kind of creepy.
Sure is, Pudgy.
Hey, George, I wonder how much this driver is going to cost Mr. Morrow.
Huh, I never would have thought of that, Pudgy.
Yeah, Pop's always said I was a smart one.
Why is this happening to me?
This is your very much best hotel.
But that can't be it. It looks just like someone built a tenement out of cardboard boxes.
Driver, are you sure this is the right place? We're supposed to be staying at the luxurious Barbary Hotel and Restaurant.
I am so very much sorry, sir. This is Gibraltar. If you want luxury, you should have stayed in London.
Maybe our plane crashed and we're all in the bad place.
Well, at least we're here together.
If you ask me, this whole trip is the bad place.
If this is the bad place, then what am I doing here?
If this is the bad place, you should feel right at home, Snoots.
Well, against my better judgment, we'd better check in and get a few hours sleep. Say, desk clerk, where's the bellhop to get our bags?
You see anyone else working here?
We're with the Gumchewy Radio Network. We have reservations.
Most people who stay here have reservations at first. We don't hold rooms though. If the room's open, you can have it.
What about our bags?
What about them? Lift with your legs.
You know, the way the paint is peeling from the walls and with all the cobwebs, this joint reminds me of an old horror movie I saw once.
Yeah, it's a little like Frankenstein's castle, but on the smaller scale, and not as nice. The only thing is missing is Igor.
Well, if Igor was here, at least we would have someone to carry in our bags.
Well, let's get our keys. We have reservations for 4 rooms.
Well, like I said, we hold rooms, but your people who called us said you have 6 people, so we're giving you the executive suite.
Okay, fine. Could you show us to our suite?
You can't miss it. It's straight down that hall.
What's the room number?
It's the door straight down the hall. You can see where the number used to be.
Snoots, get our bags.
Great. First I'm a tour guide, then I'm a sound guy, now I'm a pack animal.
You're not even close to being a tour guide. Second, the only sound you're good at is flapping your yap. And since you're a pack animal, after you tote our bags, you can sleep in the stable.
Here's our room. I'll get the door. Heavens to Betsy! What kind of hotel suite is this? I see 3 bunk beds in one room and no bathroom.
There must be some kind of a mistake. Why don't we call the front desk?
I would, if there was a phone.
Jumpin' Jehoshaphat, what is that smell? Is this a cheese factory?
Well, isn't this a cozy little love nest?
More like a buzzard's nest.
Where are we supposed to take a shower?
Let me find out. Hey, desk clerk, where's our bathroom?
Go out the back door to the left. It's the brown shack over by the brick wall.
Wait a second. Where's the door?
Probably cost extra.
Georgie, you're gonna have to stand watch while I take my shower.
You want me to watch? Are you sure, Maggie?
I want you to stand watch, you numbskull.
Well, what do you think I'll be doing? Laying down? Of course I'm gonna be standing.
I need you to stand guard, you big lunkhead.
I suggest we all get a couple hours sleep, have a nice breakfast, and then head over to the Rock.
I call top bunk. Where are you sleeping, Mr. Morrow?
Somewhere where you won't hear me cry myself to sleep.
Will Maggie get George to stand guard? Will Mr. Morrow cry himself to sleep? To find out, tune in next week for the George and Pudgy Show.
This episode of the George and Pudgy Show is brought to you by Samuel's Sewer Sucking Service. No one likes to talk about sewer problems, but even fewer people like to deal with a sewer backup. That's where Samuel's Sewer Sucking Service comes to the rescue. Our trained professional crew will show up on time, smartly dressed in suits and fully prepared to fix and clean your worst sewer problems. So remember, the next time you have a sewer problem, you can trust the man in the sewer sucker suit. That's Samuel's Sewer Sucking Service. And by the makers of Mrs. Marshall's magnificent wonderwear. It puts the wonder in your unders. It never tears, it self-cleans. Mrs. Marshall's Wonderwear.